Cool.
Okay, so good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the 2021 edition of the BIM Speed Industry Day. My name is Fernando Sicchos Jimenez. I'm the Projects and Communication Manager of the European Builders Confederation, one of the members of the BIM Speed Consortium. Today, we are going to have 5 presentations. The first being about the main concept of BIM Speed, thanks to our coordinator, Timo Hartman from the Technical University of Berlin. We will be followed by Ivo Scalway, who will present about, let's say, a practical overview in one of our Dutch demonstration pilots. Then we will have presentations about tools, methodologies developed by BIM Speed, one on lighting and visual conference assessment, a second one on extended reality tools, and a third on rule-based model checking. Before getting into the matter, I would like to remind you that last year edition of the Industry Day of BIM Speed was mostly dedicated to the BIM Speed competition. The BIM Speed competition has 2 categories of participants, as it is targeting construction professionals on one side and also students who can present residential building renovation projects using the toolkit provided by the BIM Speed partnership on its own or in complement with your usual digital and BIM tools. This competition is still open and the deadline for submissions is January 2022. So if you would like to have more information about this, as you can see it on your screen, you can quickly scan the QR code or then, of course, have a look at the presentation that should be shared. Now, we would like to know a bit more about you, the audience, the people that are following this event. So if you don't mind, I will give you a few seconds so that you connect to our Slido environment, again, by scanning the QR code or by going to your browser, www.slide.do, and the code to join the BIM Speed environment is BIM Speed 2021. I will ask Larissa maybe to take over with the presentation now so that we see people joining. Perfect, thank you very much, Larissa. So yeah, giving it a few seconds. I see that for the moment, there is only one person that joined. The very first question that I would like to ask is indeed, thank you for those already replying. In 2 words, what is your current profession? We'll give it a minute, so please go ahead. Engineer, architect, innovator. Great. Again, engineer. Okay, we're at 7 now. We're 28 people in the room. So for those that are not connected yet, please go. Researcher, BIM consultant, BIM manager, great. But so far, researcher, engineer, and architect are the main ones. I'd say let's make it to 20 at least. We're 14 there. Okay. Perfect. Still architect, engineer, researchers, but I don't see the numbers increase. So maybe we can go to the next question then. So, do you currently work with residential building renovation and or BIM? So So great, more than the half of the respondents work with both in residential renovation and BIM. Yes, great. So I would go forward. And last question now is, are you familiar already with the BIM SPEED project? I have a strong knowledge. I have some knowledge. I don't have any knowledge. So people are already familiar with the project. That's good. That means that we're doing our work well in the communication dissemination side, but there are still people that do not know much about the project. So it's great that you joined today. Perfect. More people now replying to the Slido. So let's give it a few seconds. We're almost close to the 20 that I was ambitioning. So great. Thank you for that. I will then now give the floor, now that we have a better outlook of the audience, to the coordinator of BIM SPEED, Mr. Timo Hartman.
Yeah, thank you so much. Very, very interesting, Paul. Cool results. People seem to be familiar with the project, so I don't know if I can add much with my presentation, but maybe, you know, some of you can find some nice details. So I just wanna give a little bit of an overview, going back. Maybe some of you are not familiar, right? So 40% are not familiar, showing a little bit what the project's is about, or what we did, because we are actually we are in the last year of the project. So focus is now really on dissemination, exploitation, right? Bringing the research results that we achieved, right, to actually you. And that's why it's so exciting to have another industry day and be able to show some of these things. Prepared, of course, a small presentation. Not just going to talk like a politician, but also going to show some things. And so it's like, I guess one of the main focuses of the project, and I think that's important to understand at the outset, is, so in BIM SPEED, we really set out to develop a platform to support energy efficient building renovation. Right? And so going all the way back, when we wrote the BIM SPEED proposal or something, a lot of the ideas in the BIM SPEED project were coming actually from another European project that we did before, P2 Endure. And in P2 Endure, we looked at deep renovation, and we were very, very enthusiastic and ambitious, right, to improve the European renovation. And we stumbled up on one big problem. And the big problem is the existing buildings, right? And so when we look across Europe, and here you see two examples, one is in Denmark, and one is in the Netherlands. When you look at the buildings we need to renovate in Europe, you see rather old buildings, certainly we need to renovate them, right? They're all different, right? And then what we realized is they are not different in the districts. So to really upscale renovation, we need to find solutions that allow stakeholders within the districts to get together to really renovate and find specific renovation solutions for their districts and the buildings in their districts, right? So you see these two examples really show it as well. So Denmark and Netherlands, the buildings look completely different, right? And are completely different. They need completely different renovation solutions. But when you look in these districts, right, the buildings are kind of similar, right? So when you want to go into the districts and start a renovation project of, scaling it up across all these buildings, you're pretty soon going to realize that, you're going to deal with a large network of stakeholders, right? This includes, of course, the people who do the renovation, that engineer the renovation, the municipalities, the people who live in the buildings, the renters, owners, and so forth, right? And so that was one of the goals one of the assumptions at the beginning, that to make a platform for energy efficient renovation work, we need to have a platform that really can support complex local to business networks, right? And not like starting overarching EU-wide networks and ecosystems, but really support people at the at the district level and be so flexible that, you know, everybody in these districts can find their way, right, within this platform. Then we started the BIM Speed project, and this is one of the, at least in my mind, one of the major strategic outcomes that we have. So this is our use case tree, right? And so we realized that it's not only like you need to have very complex social networks, but there are a lot of things you can use BIM for, right? So you cannot read all of this, but each of these nodes is probably one use that you can use BIM for, and there are probably many, many more. So this is just a brainstorming we did in the consortium. We grew it and added things, right? But there are probably many, many more. So it's not only that you need a platform that, you know, can support the startup of like very flexible social networks and bring people together, like different people on every project, what's needed in the district. But you also need to have a platform that's flexible and open to support any type of use case, right? And so when we talk about any type of use case, you need to have a platform, of course, that where you can, you know, like allow different software applications, different standards, right? So not only IFC, but, you know, maybe also Revit and like open, close BIM to play together, right? And create like a platform where maybe also small software companies at the district level who have really good solutions for the local district level can tie in and work in. So that's the second type of flexibility that we wanted to do, right? And then we start on BIM Speed. A lot of you are familiar, but I guess it makes sense at the start of this industry day to repeat the main goals that we had on the project. So we wanted to create this flexible, right, for networks and applications, right, but an affordable cloud-based BIM platform, right? We also wanted to have a set of interoperable BIM tools on top of the platform, and that's more like to illustrate, right? So it's possible that you can have a very flexible platform. There's no fixed tools. People can come in and integrate their own tools. Software companies can come in and work and so forth, right? And then, of course, we wanted to validate and standardize procedures for implementing renovation solutions with guaranteed energy performance, inhabitants comfort, to provide more demonstrations, right? Ideally, how people use the platform, right? A flexible platform in any type of way, right? Different ways are required for different districts, as we said, and to support and improve, right, how they can renovate buildings. Now, a couple of things of what we did during the project and what we achieved so far, I guess. As I said, we are in the last year, and so we don't do much more innovation work, right, and research work in that sense, but more dissemination work. I guess dissemination is also innovation, right? But we first started with like paving the groundwork, like we needed to have some sort of platform. And for that, we choose an existing platform of our project partner, CSTB, right? They had the Crocky platform, and this is actually a BIM platform that's quite good, well received on the French market, but we translated it to English and made it available as what we call now our BIM Speed platform for the European market, right? And so, but that basically is the ground, right? And then we started to think of ways how you can, you know, run races, renovation races, speeding up your renovation project on the platform, right? And to this end, we really used this BIM Speed platform basis and created, you know, an open ecosystem-based platform. And what you see here is really important things is this one here. It's like, you know, you see this market stand, and maybe we should put some language on there as well. But this one here is like a marketplace, an app store in that sense, right? Where everybody can come in because our platform has an open API that allows software developers to create any type of applications that make use of information, any type of information, right? So the platform is mainly file-based, but we also integrate by now different possibilities to store database data, right? And really add your thing to our app store, and then people on the district level who want to use one of your apps can just use it for their purpose, right? And so what we also did, we illustrated that you can actually develop apps and provide them to the platform. So we developed this whole set of apps, like a GIS data provider service, so you can go enter your local coordinates and get like all types of open data sets that, you know, might be important for you to plan your renovation. We created a weather service, right? Very important for energy simulation of your buildings, right? To get good, accurate weather data, and back to Bim Tools, so you can connect to IoT platforms that might collect data from the existing building. We have a 3D dash tool, which is basically converting point cloud data to IFC. Then all type of different tools. So we have integrated some. The one in light yellow, we are still working on integrating some more, right? And the second good feature of the platform that we've said and we illustrated is that you can actually connect to other existing platforms, right? So we see the BIM Speed platform as an open ecosystem. So we are not like against like that, you know, the BIM Speed platform can maybe talk to other commercial platforms that are existing. And we illustrated this also and linked our platform to project partners Demos platform, which is mainly for facility management, right? So you can use Demos platform, and information from Demos platform can be exchanged with the BIM Speed platform, and be connected to, you know, our project partner CPAS platform, right? So CPAS has a big BIM server platform and a lot of BIM applications that they support, like site improvements and so forth. And we can also, we showed also, or we have a connection from the BIM Speed platform to that. Right? And so that's basically the groundwork we hope to create it. So we have an open platform, we have an API, we have a marketplace, and so people can now, across Europe, all type of software companies can actually develop apps. People can also use the platform already to support the renovation projects, which with the stuff that's available, right? And so then another thing that we did now that we had all this, right? And we're assuming that a lot of data can be stored there. What, you know, we also thought we're gonna do some stunts in that sense, right? Not only racing and speeding, but also doing some cool tricks. And so one of the cool tricks I want to mention here is, for example, we developed a artificial machine learning based image detection tool. Our partner Cartif developed that, right? We can actually have photos, right? We take a lot of photos from existing buildings when we do these, right? And you can use this tool to automatically identify different equipment that's installed on the building, which is of course very important when you want to start your renovation planning, right? So what's next? Coming a little bit to an end of this short introductory pitch, right? In the sense, right? So of course we are running out of time. Time moves fairly quickly, and we have less than a year left, right? And so I wanted to hope and hope that you can engage with us and help us, right? Because the BIM Speed project will end October 22. And then hopefully some of the results and so forth will be picked up by the European market. And, you know, the big goal is, of course, we need to significantly increase the speed how we renovate. Renovation rates are at 2% at the moment in Europe. So everybody can do the math. We need to renovate probably all buildings to reach the climate goals, 2050, right? Everybody can do the math of whether 2% renovation rate will lead us to like a complete renovation of all buildings in Europe by 2050, right? And so we think it's super important that maybe some of the results, we don't know how much they work, we illustrate some things, right? But now we need to have the market and maybe you as industry partners and so forth, maybe pick up some things, and we need to try to make the next steps. We believe that we made a good step, right? That's usable, but so we're thinking about a couple of things, but how we can establish a bigger ecosystem, right? Maybe around our platform. I'm not trying to do too much marketing, right? But the platform is there, it works, right? Might be a good tool. But what we do is now extensively also in the last year, we want to demonstrate. So we have 12 demonstration projects. We have projects all across Europe, right? That picture doesn't show the German ones, I just realized. So we also have some in the middle. And on top of these, right, so we're going to really show many applications of how you can use BIM on these projects, many different things. Because we believe there's not one process, right? Every project needs to be structured different, but we show like our goal is really to show a lot of like different of these use cases. Think of the use case tree we have, right? And on top of that, we want to also show, and we are developed, and I showed that already. So we have a couple of apps already in our BIM Speed platform in the App Store, right? And so we want to also demonstrate how software developers, companies at the local level and so forth can develop and custom tailored BIM application software and integrate it in our platform. So we're going to also have 10 plus illustrated apps. The apps work, right? So they can be used already and so forth, right? But it's also, we can demonstrate to software providers, SME software companies across Europe, right? Here's how you can integrate, right? Another thing we do is, use cases are very important. I already said that. We are working on formalizing. I think we're going to have 20 plus more formalized use cases at the end of the project. For the formalization, we really use Building Smart International standard for use case management. So our use case, formalized use cases will be actually standardized in the sense with Building Smart. And so basically here we really describe, why can you use BIM, for what can you use BIM, what's the process you need to do, what is the information you need to have, right? And then we also show how it's done on our demonstration cases, right? And we will have this in the Building Smart use case database, ucm.buildingsmart.org. We are hoping to publish the first 2 use cases within the next month, right? But we're going to have more than 20 in the end. So that's most likely, right? I believe that we will have more than 20. I can say that now. Right. The other thing that we provided is detailed training material. So please go to our website and look at that. So if you need help with something, if you have like junior staff starting, if you're a professor at university like me, right, look at the training material. There's like a really big and very detailed and also very pedagogically worthful training material on our website, right? And then what Fernando already said at the beginning, probably what we thought gonna be the major vehicle to really start this ecosystem around our platform is this competition. So again, what Fernando already said in his talk, please, maybe you join the competition, spread the word, ask people to join the competition, right? So I think it's really good if, like, what's in for you is always the question, but you get to look at the platform, you get to look at the apps, you maybe can get inspired what it means to use such a platform for renovation projects in your certain thing, right? And get involved with us and also help us maybe to make the platform still a little bit better. And with that, the normal disclaimers, and I hope you all will enjoy the presentations that are to come in this industry day. Some cool stuff is gonna come, I can promise. Thank you.
Thank you, Timo. Talking about illustration, let's go to the next presentations then. Now, Ivo will present us about one of the Dutch demonstration pilots. Please, Ivo.
Yes, so good morning still. Good morning, everyone. And Timo, thank you so much for your really nice presentation. I think there were some really nice insights in it, and you gave a very good overview, I think, about the progress that has been made in the BIM Speed project. And in the meantime, I quickly log in for my presentation. I'm sorry. But yeah, obviously, I also have something to share, and I'm not sure if I can top Timo's presentation, but I'll try my best because I work for a social housing corporation in the Netherlands, which has a total amount of about 11,500 homes, which we obviously build. But we also do the management of those buildings. We do repairs. We do the like all the client contact with the tenants. But besides that, we also do a lot of renovations. And nowadays, with all the new sustainability measures, yeah, that makes it sometimes quite complicated. And yeah, that's why we're also looking into options how to make this process yeah, even better and more efficient. All right, now I have the time to share my screen. There it comes. Share, and then voila. Does everyone see my presentation?
Yes, it works. Thank you.
Okay, cool. Well, yeah, so I mentioned I work for a social housing association, myself as an innovation employee, so I try to bring in new ideas. But first of all, I would like to explain a little bit more, since there are also people joining from other countries in Europe, and social housing is, in a sense, everywhere a little bit the same, but also everywhere a little bit different. So I would like to share what social housing associations in the Netherlands are, in very briefly, in a nutshell. We mainly build and manage affordable homes, and affordable means not necessarily only for the lower incomes, because that's what people always think. Yeah, there are poor people living in those homes, but that's not necessarily always true, because it can also, for example, be people with relatively average incomes, but who are single. They are also eligible, or maybe people who get a divorce, or maybe a person that loses an income due to health reasons. Those are just a few examples of situations that may arise in life, like unexpected situations, which makes it suddenly unaffordable to, for example, pay your mortgage, especially in the crazy housing market these days, or rent an apartment in the so-called free market, which is also incredibly expensive here in the Netherlands, and I also assume in other bigger major cities in Europe. So in a nutshell, what we do, I always say we basically build homes for various affordable lifestyles. Besides that, housing corporations in the Netherlands have also a huge burden, which is called a landlord levy that we have to pay every year. And the landlord levy is actually a certain tax that we have to pay to the government every year to make up for substantial losses that we made during the economical crisis somewhere around 2008. Which makes it very difficult for us to make ends meet financially. Hence also this picture of the houses being on the water and the finances being on the water. And next to this, we're also expected to be front runners in the race to sustainability and becoming more energy neutral. And then you can think, why is this important to address? Well, the thing that I want to say with this is that we want to, or that we have to flip every coin twice before we can spend it. That's actually the situation here with social housing associations. And that also makes us interested in exploring ways to make our current real estate better, more sustainable, more adaptable, but also more energy efficient. That made us also very interested in and also created a bit the sense of urgency to participate in these kind of research projects. Then let's dive in the project location itself. As I mentioned, we have 11,500 lettable units, like homes in a certain part of the Netherlands, somewhere between Amsterdam and another city called Leiden. We selected a project location which is located in a small-sized town in the Netherlands, about only 5,000 people, so very small, relatively close to the sea. In these 3 blocks that you see, There are about 42 apartments. They're built in the 1960s, late 1960s. Then again, so that's a time where the building quality is not always too well. So we had to renovate it again in the late 90s, and now actually at this moment currently we're also making plans to renovate it and bring it to today's standards. And that's why we brought in this this complex. The familiar picture for everyone that knows about the BIM Speed project, because BIM Speed is one tool, but on the other end there are also other tools that we tested throughout this project and are still testing actually, which is one, of course, BIM, the building information modeling. 2, we tested some sensor technology. 3 is we are testing and are still gonna test an inhabitants or residents feedback app. And 4 is that we're currently also exploring the benefits of creating a building energy model, or a BEM model. And I'll dive into each of these tools a bit more into detail. So well, where can we start? With these old drawings, actually, we started. If you're talking about building information models, you're thinking about 3D models of your building, which is rather new technology that we know about, but we actually never worked with it. And in the social housing association social housing associations in the Netherlands, for them it's still quite a new development, I have to say, and that made it also interesting to join this project. And what is also interesting about this tool is that the fact that different disciplines can work with the identical information in one central environment. So that, for example, engineers or architects and constructors or the maintenance party like us ourselves, that can look into that information, that we can make plans together in one central location with information that is accurate and not saved on everyone's own desktop, which still happens a lot these days. But that, I think that's one interesting fact. What did it mean for our specific project is that we first had to collect all the existing and also very old 2D drawings. Here in the right bottom corner, you can see, you can read the number 1969. So that's when it was built. The drawings are not, they are already they are already being torn apart a little bit right in the middle. They're getting yellow. Plus, the available drawings were very limited. So there is also a lot of information missing, such as, in the meantime, did we isolate it, and with what material and how thick? So that was quite a challenge. But however, eventually, based upon these 2 drawings and some additional research, we could make a 3D model out of it, which looked like this.
So sorry, Ivo, sorry to interrupt. Can you? We are already being scheduled. Can I just ask you to go a bit faster so that we don't go too much over the hour?
Yeah, cool. I will go a bit faster. So this is the 3D model. Obviously, this was based on a 2D drawing, so we had to perform a 3D laser scan, which allowed us to compare the situation on the drawings as the situation, or with the situation in real life. So that 3D laser scan helped us to make this point cloud, which helped us to make the data as accurate as possible. So that's about the BIM technology. Then we also tested 3 different sensors. on the left side, you see a radiation heat sensor that focuses on all the facades and walls in the house and checks where heat is lost in the winter and where you lose heat, or actually where heat comes in the summer. So it's super valuable information. The middle one is an air quality sensor, and the right one is a sensor that or that's actually an acoustic or a sound sensor, which gives us insight in like what the noise level is outside and how that impacts life inside the building. These are a few pictures about the actual process, and you can imagine that it was sometimes not very. In the beginning, we thought it would not be very easy to get residents on board. But in the end, actually, with some clever communication, it was not too bad at all. And residents were also happy to participate in something new and innovative. So that led to some very nice visits. And then eventually, there's also the feedback app that I just mentioned that we're going to test. It's not tested with the residents yet. But that will soon happen, and also very curious to know what kind of results will come out of that, because I think there's definitely some added potential value of collecting data without having to visit the people in person, which now still happens. We have to visit each individual before we can start the project, and this maybe speeds it up a little bit. Then we can send out, for example, a letter with login credentials, and bam, there you go. Residents can log in and give feedback. And because it's connected to the BIM model, we can also say, we can also connect the specific questions that we have to each room. So, for example, in a living room, how do you find this room? Are you comfortable? Yes or no? Is it too cold? Do you experience maybe drafts or sound like a noise from outside? Or is it too warm in this room? All this information helps us and allows us to take into consideration the wishes, problems, but also the experience that the residents have.
Ivo,
the last one.
Yes, 1 minute to end, please.
Yeah, I'm coming to an end. So this is the last and fourth tool or technique that we're applying. Currently, the partners in the project are making a building energy model, and various concepts are being compared. From one hand, very sustainable measures to average measures in different scenarios, and this is in our case super important, because in the Netherlands you have a rule which is called the energy performance compensation, and you can basically get a compensation from the tenants if you turn the building into a near to zero energy building. And in order to apply for that, this will help us to earn back a little part of our investment. But in order to apply, we would need to know the exact heat demand, and hopefully this BIM model can help us with that. So that is in short. The experience the experience that we had testing all these new methodologies, and personally, I think that on one hand, it's very nice to see that you get confirmations of your thoughts and expertise that you have and that my colleagues have. But actually, what even better is, in my opinion, is to come to new insights that you actually haven't thought of. And I think that this project really benefited to that.
Thank you, Ivo.
So that's it. And if people have questions, you can ask them in the chat or later on.
Exactly. We will try to have a minute. That's why I try to speed up. and I will ask you to maybe start this presentation already. The idea was to indeed have a round of questions at the end of all presentations. And now seeing that we're behind schedule, I will ask you to Nadia and Jessica to be as short as possible. We told them 10 minutes, but I think if you can go faster would be better, because I think if we want to have our presentation and to find a moment to discuss, we will already be 10 minutes behind schedule. So we will try to get closer to that. Thank you very much, City.
No problem. Hey, can you disable the sharing? Because I think it's not allowing me to share.
When you share, or maybe you were not made a co-host, can I ask Carola to quickly deal with that, please?
Yes, I'm on it. 1 second.
All right, thanks.
That's why. Otherwise, it's automatic. When you start sharing yours, it
should come up already. Yeah. Yeah. I think now it should be rock and rolling. Let's see. I think you guys can see my screen.
Yes, full screen now, please.
Yeah.
There you go.
Cool. So, hello everyone. Thank you for your time. I'll try to go as fast as possible with this presentation. This chapter will be focusing on light and visual comfort assessment. We have 10 chapters, but I will just briefly talk about it more as a conversation and dialogue than as a presentation. Essentially, the vision of BIM Speed, like Timo and everyone mentioned, is that we wanted to reduce, we wanted to save energy and then reduce time for every type of analysis or anything that's going within this BIM sphere. For us, what we took to heart is the focused attention on the user as a key factor, and then the deeper innovation for EU energy efficiency. Essentially, while we presented, it would be just mostly focusing on daylighting and visual comfort, nothing beyond that. So, understanding the aim of BIM Speed, we understood essentially this research would be kind of a high-speed highway kind of thing. And so the idea for us is that how do we integrate this type of analysis within the research or within the BIM Speed agenda by adding a second lane to it. So it should be always parallel to everything that's happening within the renovation process. And so what we did is that we took a look at what are the key factors or actors within the daylight simulation or daylight type of analysis. And essentially there's 4. The first is the daylight performance. This is understanding how the space perform with natural daylight. The second is more of an added value of this research, which is looking at the circadian rhythm of the human being. So how does light affect mood or health and wellness? And then you have the designer, who is every partner in the BIM Speed consortium or whoever will be using this platform. And then finally, the end user, who's the owner, the resident, the city, or a curious mind, which is those are the guys who are present in this meeting. Currently, from our background, which is more of an architecture office, our understanding of how to run this type of analysis is oftentimes very messy. What happens is that you have a client who's on the top left, come up with a project, and a designer work on the design, and in between the design, it conveys in some way we have to coordinate with a consultant, for example, who is a specialist in daylighting, in order to run specific analysis for the project. And then you get through validation through the city. The city has to make sure the regulation and standardization is all correct. And then you go back through this loop back and forth, and it's getting quite messy. And so the way we see it now is that before is this kind of messy kind of network that's happening. The way it is now is that there's multiple loops that connect at specific points. And this is kind of what somewhat what BIM Speed is struggling with, which is as an architect, you have to coordinate with the MVP, you have to coordinate with the client, And what happened is still circular, but kind of messy still. And what we want to go for, which is a moonshot, is something a bit more linear. So for us, looking into daylighting simulation, the first thing we did is that we look into what are the standardization that we have to abide by. Because in some way, when you renovate a building, you have to kind of validate the benefit or the added value you've done to the building. And so for us, it's the WELL, the BREEAM, and LEED. And these are European, but also international. Second, we look into what are the software tools we can use. We could either develop our own tools as architects, not a good idea, or go with already tools that are already proven and being updated and tested. But then how does this translate back into the BIM Speed platform? So we've run a multitude of benchmark on different softwares that are out there right now, from the Rhino and the Revit, Cove Tool, Dialux, Relux, and we've compared them based on workflows, ICT investment, user interface, essentially key components that was very special to the BIM speed research. And so what I will go through now is kind of an example of a simulation we ran for Vitoria in Spain. And so for a lighting simulation, there are key things that need to be like present in order to run the simulation. First, you have to have the IFC data, and you have to have the GIS data, which is a context of the building, meaning is there a building next to the building you're simulating the research on? Are there trees in front of the ground floor window, or how tall are the trees in front of the third floor window? Because those things affect the way light performs in the space. And then from that, you have to go into the material setup, which is kind of in some way the BIM passport, where you have to have all the details of the materials that are there, whether it's a shining floor or it's carpet, because those things affect the reflectance of light within the space, which can make it either tolerable or very poor. And then we have to specify the window glazing, the TVIS, which is more of a transmittance value of the glazing. And then essentially is the area of analysis, which is a floor which you run a simulation on. So we went through two different software tools. We went the Revit Insight, which is the most dominant tool in our industry and architecture. And then we found out through the benchmark that Rhino Climate Studio is actually quite efficient as well. So we've run those two simulations in order to understand and compare how we can increase speed in either or, which one has a higher value. So for Vitoria Spain, usually what happens is that once you run a daylight simulation, you're given kind of a set of some credits that validates whether your building has a good performance or not. And this is something you can submit to the BRIM or the LEED in order to get approval and get your building to be a LEED building, for example, which is great for any company or any clients or architects working on a project. And so for Vitoria Spain, they actually performed very poorly, so we didn't get any credit. The reason why is because the front-facing building is actually facing north, and the back end is facing south, meaning it doesn't get enough sunlight throughout the year. The average lux that you see on the bottom left is 162, which is way below average. The required level of lighting in the space should be around 300 lux. And so furthermore, the simulation also allows us to understand glare, which is basically the circadian rhythm. How does the light perform and affect the human eye? And so with this software, we were able to assess different areas or nodes within the space or within each specific room to really understand which direction or which angle has the most glare, which means this is the most uncomfortable space to be placing maybe a computer screen. Understanding that most of us are now working from home, it's kind of important to have this type of data to understand how to design a space as we move forward. So essentially, we've done it also for the demo case. We've run into a couple demo cases that we have in the BIM Speed. But what we're trying to do now is to find not just the as-built data, but we also want to compare it to the renovation data and the sensor data in order to understand what is the threshold or tolerance of error within the simulation versus real data. I will basically skip through this because this is more interoperability, which is how do we translate the data back into the BIM Speed platform. We can discuss that further later. But essentially, what we've done is that we compared two software, and what we realized is that daylight simulation can be broken into 4 categories, which is the import, the preparation, the simulation, and the output. And so for Revit, the import and preparation is super because it's IFC compatible. So meaning if you have a nice IFC model already packaged for you, once you bring it into Revit, there's little work that you have to do in order to start running a simulation. Essentially, the simulation output could be more expanded because it's not so exposed or it's not so customizable as we would wish to have it. But on the other end, Rhino, because it's not so IFC compatible, you have to go through different plugins in order to bring in an IFC model into Rhino. It performed poorly between the import and preparation, because that means you have to do a lot of manual work in order to get the model ready to run the simulation.
But
on the other end, the simulation and the output is super efficient because they allow you to customize and to design as you run the simulation, meaning you don't wait for the renovation to be done to understand how it performs, but you can test it out through the process of design. So I think it's a matter of bringing the two and understanding how to bring value in both. And essentially, the ICT investment is actually higher for Revit because you have to buy credit to run the simulation, while Rhino is more of a license that you can use all year long. Essentially, what we're doing now is that we're packaging an optimization script, which allow us to kind of reduce the speed of import of an IFC model from Revit into Rhino. That will basically reduce the speed by half, that we can share with the partners to make the workflow a bit smoother. And the second thing we're working on is the daylight analysis manual, which is how do we run the simulation, and in some way, how to use this software in order to get the right type of value or to understand the type of research you're doing. So essentially, this is where we are, and I think we've supported as well on the use case that Timo was mentioning before. And now we're just trying to create a nice package that can be really pushed out and see and tested as well to get feedback back from. So I think that concludes my presentation, actually.
Thank you a lot, Tito.
I'm sorry if I went over time.
No worries. It seems that there is a lot to be said from each speaker. Nadia, can I just ask you to just jump in and start yours so that we hear you about extended reality tools? Thank you. I think it becomes clearer and clearer to everyone that we will go beyond schedule. So thank you for staying with us. We will finish, we will try to make it 15 minutes, the academic quarter of hour that we usually shed in France and in Belgium. But I think it's interesting that we have these presentations and then try to have a quick chat about it.
You hear me?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yes. Okay, I will do my best for saving the time. So here are some slides explaining the terms augmented reality, virtual reality, mixed reality, extended reality. You see mixed reality is in the middle, all this space between real and virtual. So the reference, I think the illustration is clear. Augmented reality is with a lot of real and less unreal. So mixed reality plus virtual reality, it is extended reality. Extended reality is an umbrella of all this, excluding real environment. So this is all the picture. Now this is my colleague Chris shows the devices. He's in this is same room from where I am broadcasting. This is Oculus Quest. He closed just closed Microsoft Hololens. So on the table you see inactive glasses. They're very cheap, €1. This is a budget device, about €10. It is VR box, but you should have your own smartphone, iPhone or Android device. Here I will shorten. There are 3 slides that shows that you should firstly do your scenario, GDD game design document. So these pictures they are collages. We do plan what we will show, and then this is the test. All these videos could be found in the training area of the project, on the site of the project BIM Speed, also in the YouTube channel of the project BIM Speed, and also in the YouTube channel of Architectural Spice Ltd. I will not continue here. This is quite longer, but I'm trying to save time. You can find these videos. Only to say that it's complex, the recognition is complex. So this is the most powerful device, Microsoft HoloLens. It is worth to be seen. It's in our previous office. You see the hologram of the 3D model of the demonstration site in Varna. It is on Dragoman Street. So you could prepare in whatever scale such holograms, including in scale 1:1. So I didn't finalize the video, but let me say we felt in love with this illustration teamwork with HoloLens. This is what inspired us when we started to work with HoloLens. So now you see something that we produced combination between mixed reality and virtual reality with HoloLens. So now when this character jumps, so now everything turns into one-to-one image. This is the attic floor of the demonstration site in Dragoman Street. So it is virtual, if it is augmented reality or virtual reality, because all this is virtual reality, but quite transparent in some way. You can see the walls of our studio. So I will shorten the movie. So this is very cheap way desktop augmented reality by anaglyph glasses. Here I will not continue and right eyes, they see different models, and they the volumetrization is by brain. So this is the cheap way. You should put your own smartphone into the VR box. And this is the test. The test is probably I could move it, shorten it. We pass into the building, and when we go to the attic floor, it turns one-to-one, similarly to the case shown with Oculus Quest. I will not continue this movie. So this is the last one demo. It is dormitory, municipal dormitory in the small town Malko Trnovo, near the boundary of Turkey. So this is interesting. It is produced for Oculus Quest. Here we enter into the internal space. We see, shorten it. We pass here, and this is important because we organized when we did the project for renovation. We this is grill. Now there is nothing, only a terrace, and we cover it by so-called sun space. Here now our hero will move up. So I am fastering. So here is climbing up. Shorten. So how to go to the next slide. So this is the last one slide. This is the last one slide. Who will be benefited by these methodologies, and this is the end of the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you,
So
Nadia.
how to escape now?
Thank you, Nadia. The thing is, you made a right point. Unfortunately, we weren't able to see the full video, but it will be available, I guess, in the training section of the BIM Speed website. So if you're interested, you will have access to all that information. Jessica, can I please ask you to now start your presentation?
Yes, and I will try my best to shorten it.
Thank you.
Okay, can you see my screen?
Not yet.
No. I think now I stopped.
Yes,
Nadia.
it does work. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Fernando. So hi again from my side. I'm Jessica Steinian, and I'm working as BIM manager at Hochtief Viken. And I will give you a really very brief overview of methods and tools for rule-based model checking. So in the past, I already worked for BIM's project on procedures and methods for collecting data and information to perform different use cases. And some of these use cases are BIM use cases and require a 3D model. But of course, not only a 3D model, they require a verified 3D model. So that's the time to answer the question, why do we need model checks? These 3D models need to fulfill all the requirements coming from the intended BIM use cases so that the objectives of the renovation projects really can be achieved. They ensure the correctness of the 3D model and support, by doing this, they support the BIM use cases. By the end, they can detect errors within the model and within the design process before it comes to construction. So summarized, that are the important facts where model checks can support your project. The model checks check the accordance of 3D models with existing standards and country-specific regulations. In fact, that means it also gives you accordance that your design is in accordance with existing standards and specific regulations. They enable you the verification of geometrical consistency of 3D model elements itself or relations to other 3D model elements, and even to coordinate your 3D model with other discipline models. So by the end, they provide you an option to guarantee that your 3D model can be accessed for several use cases. Let's have a short look on different types of model checks. So we have semantical checks, which will check the consistency of 3D objects itself, or things like in which type they are modeled or naming conventions. Then we have numerical checks, which will evaluate the information provided within those property sets or attached to it. And we have geometrical checks, the clash detection or deviation analysis, which is a comparison of the 3D model with a laser scanning point cloud. So I will skip this slide a little bit faster because it will go too much into detail. So where to implement the model check into your design process. There are several points of approvals for the 3D model, but by the end you will have a verified 3D model. If you have more questions where to put it in the design process, please contact me afterwards. Now it's going on. Okay. So there are 3 general steps to set up model checks. First, you have to prepare them and to implement them into your whole design process. Of course, then you have to create the model checks and set the definitions. And by the end, the evaluation where you get the results. I will give you a short overview on how we did it on BIM Speed projects. On one demo site project, it's again a Spanish demo site project. So let's have a look on it. The demo site project naturally follows the country-specific regulations and design rules which are existing. Here's one example. The rule says in Spain, in climate zone A to E, each external wall needs to have an acoustic rating of more than 35 dB. So how to set up model checks now with this information? That's exactly the point. You have to translate this textual information into a logical syntax and identify which properties are within it and can be checked. If you see here this logical syntax, we have two entities. It's the IFC building and the IFC wall. And so you can identify the IFC building needs to have a property which says the country is Spain, so the value of the property is Spain. The building also has to be, has to have the property of the climate zone, and the value has to be A to E. The entity wall needs to be identified as external, so true or false. And of course, finally, the acoustic rating needs to be more than 35 dB. So to give you an example, I just will show you in one example in using the software application of Sync Project. It's D-Side BIM. Of course, there are more on the market, and we give a brief overview in our deliverable on BIM Speed project. So have a look on it. And my mouse is doing his own work. So these are the properties we want to check. But if to check if the wall really has an acoustic rating of 35 dB, we first have to define a precondition so that not all elements have to be checked. That would lead to too much results. So the precondition will filter out. It will first check if the entity is IFC building or IFC wall, and if these properties have values or not. So all elements which fail these precondition are ignored. As you can see, it says do not check, and only the elements which remain, the check rule will check. Let's have an example on the Spanish demo side. So that's the model like we get it from the designer. And as you can see here, we have 1,477 elements which already failed the precondition. That means they are not identified as external wall. We only have 9 elements that do not match with the acoustic rating of more than 35 dB. And luckily we have 211 elements that comply these requirements. These results now can be put into, for example, easily in an Excel sheet with screenshots, or even as BCF export and given to the BIM author back, and he can correct the model, and then a second check run can verify the model. So my last sentence, and that's really not a short presentation, but the usage of model checks really to verify data and information and guarantee working BIM process. That's, I think, the importance of model checks you can take with you at home as giveaway. And I hope this brief overview was a little bit, gives a little bit impression, but of course there are many more things to tell, but not today, I fear.
Thank you very much, Jessica. Thank you very much, everyone, for the effort. I asked people, and I think it was several times asked if in the chat, there was questions. I don't see any. I'm opening the floor anyway. Does anyone have a question for the speakers? If yes, please just mention the speaker and I mean, manifest here. I will give it a minute as usual. Okay, so I think that in spite of being short, it seems that it was clear enough. I'm going to quickly then share my screen again. Unfortunately, not to extend too much, we won't go to the final question that we had on Slido. I will only remind you that indeed, and my colleagues have put it in the chat, there is a training section on the website where you can have access to further information about the tools presented today, the methodologies, but also others that weren't introduced today. On my side, I would only say a few concluding remarks. I mean, again, thank you, everyone. I think that everyone has noticed that the BIM speed concept really enters in the current political and technological context. We're talking about the BIM potential for BIM renovation of buildings, which is part of the European Commission renovation wave that is being implemented so far. So this is a project that goes into that direction. As you heard, the BIM Speed platform, tools, services, methodologies become fully mature and usable. So feel free to reach to us or to any of our partners for further information about their tools and the World BIM Speed project. Also, final reminder that there is a competition going on, and our ambition is that it shows practical external examples of how to evolve in the BIM Speed environment or to use our tools, as I said, on their own or in complementing your usual methodologies, your usual digital tools. Then I would like to invite you, to those that are not yet part of the BIM community of practice, to join. You can know how to do that, how to reach us through our several communication channels, the website, the Twitter account, the LinkedIn account. Feel free to reach to us if you're not a member yet. You will get a lot more insights on the project if you do so. I think without further ado, I mean, last time that I say thank you. Thank you to the audience. Thank you to the speakers. And let's stay in touch for the last year of the BIM Speed project, where I'm pretty sure we will share many more developments. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you, Situ.
Thank you, guys.
Many thanks to all speakers. Thanks.
Thanks to all the listeners. Thanks to the audience. Thanks to the other speakers.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Now that people are leaving, I realized I forgot to mention that this was recorded and would be available on the website as well.
Oops.
Oops.
Thanks everyone for the attention.
Do we still stay on the line?
No, I don't think you need
not
to.
necessary.
I think people are leaving increasingly. So thank you very much, everyone. And we'll stay in touch. Thank you.
All right.
Jessica,
thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, Fernando. Thank you, Sama.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Ciao.